Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carol Pulley. I am part of the Messina Music Friends group. And every time there is some elections for the school board, Messina Music Friends is very proud and happy to sponsor for the public to meet the candidates, has some Q&A questions so you get to know them a little better other than what's in their bio. So thank you, candidates, for all coming this evening. We appreciate you giving your time up to do this so the public has a better perspective on your points of view. This evening's commentary will be led by Bob Beckstead. He will be doing a twofold duty. He will be doing the questions and the time constraints, and I think that's about it. So thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate it, and don't forget to get out and vote next week, okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Okay, Bob. It's on you.
All right. I appreciate everybody coming out on this 45-degree spring night. I'm going to enjoy the one day of summer that we get. Anyway, I've got like 5 questions because I figured that by the time we're done, that's going to take up a lot of time. So basically what will happen is, Angela, you'll be the first person to answer the first question. Then Christopher, you'll be the first person to answer the second question, and we'll just go on down the line. And I screwed that up the last time, so if anybody, if I do that again, please let me know. So, first thing I'm going to do is just have you folks give a brief bio about yourself. I know that everything was in the newsletter. It's going to be going out, but just briefly tell us about yourself.
Do you want me to take this down? I'm Angie Frost, Angela Frost. I have 4 children. I'm married to my husband for 20 years next year. I'm a graduate of Messina Central, and I own a business downtown. I'm co-owner of Studio 162, and I also sell real estate. And I also started subbing for the district this year, so I'm quite bored on everyday life here. I'm just here because I want to be part of a solution, and that's why I put my name in.
I'm Chris Castell. The only one who gets called Christopher is my mother. I'm actually not from Messina. I'm actually from Fort Covington. Moved to Messina in 2010 when I married my wife in 2013. I've attended several different colleges. First one I went to was University of Northwest Ohio. Spent a year there, came back, quit community college, and then finally graduated from SUNY Plattsburgh with a bachelor's in criminal justice. Had several jobs from Walmart to bartending at the casino, finally landing at Corning where I'm the shipping coordinator and part of the union there, and also the shop steward for my department.
Stay busy. Tim?
Okay, I'm Tim Hayes. Grew up in Messina and lived here my whole life. Went to college, came back. I have a degree in physical education and certified in special ed and special education and physical education. I've worked for the ARC, BoC's, St. Lawrence Central, and Messina. My kids went to school here. I'm retired now. 5 years retired. It's gone by pretty fast. Time goes by faster when you get older. I'm finding out. And, not happy with that, but trying to find things to do. I think it's important to be involved in this because of the fact that there was a lot of good people involved when I came up through that put their time in, and it's an opportunity to see what you can do to make sure there's quality for the kids coming up behind you.
You graduated after me, and I'm not going to be retired for now. Trish?
Hi, I'm Patricia Trish Murphy. I've been an educator in Messina since 1986, and I'm looking forward to next month when I retire. This has been my only career. I've been continuously employed at Messina Central since graduating from college at SUNY Potsdam. I'm a K-12 art teacher. I actually have taught pre-K through 12th grade, so I have taught every grade level here in Messina. I've taught at 4 of the 5 buildings. I've worked with all the administrators and all the staff there. because I'm a special area teacher, I do get to see quite a population. I probably have taught around 7,000 different children. So I'm very aware of the district, and I'm very aware of what the pandemic has done to our district. I think that we really need to stop listening to the media, and we need to start listening to each other. Our community has a lot of good ideas. My communication with parents this year has been very important. I care about the students not just as students, but as people. And, you know, we have to look at the child holistically. So when I saw that there was an opening in the board, I thought, this is a good way to kind of make sure that the legacy of Messina continues. It's a wonderful school district. It is probably one of the best districts in all of the North Country. We have tremendous people who work there, not just faculty, but support staff too. We've been very fortunate to have very good leadership, and so I want to help with that leadership and help kids going forward.
Christy?
Hi, I'm Christy Dubray Baker, and I'm a current member of the Messina Central School Board. And I've worked in so many different facets. I've been educating children for 23 years, first as a dance instructor, then as a substitute teacher for the district, and now I am currently a researcher for Messina Head Start. I've landed my dream job, so I'm so excited. And I'm here, I'm running again because I feel that we are all on the same team. We're all working for the betterment of our school, the betterment of our children. And while I've been on the school board for the past year, I have realized just how incredibly strong, like you said, Messina Central School District really, really is. I was born here, raised here. I'm raising my 4 children here. One of my stepchildren is going to be coming to Messina next year to be in the special education program, which is one of the strongest programs I've witnessed personally. So, you know, I really do think that the school board is just a wonderful opportunity for us to be involved and be able to really focus on the needs of our district, the needs of our children, and to come together as a community to help them to succeed and be the very best that they can be.
Out of curiosity, is Christy the only one who's run for school board before? Oh, yes. Some of you folks kind of already answered my first question, but I'll go anyway. I was wondering what the major factor was in making you decide to run for the Board of Education. So we'll start with Angela.
For personal reasons for me, I was a big advocate for returning sports to the kids, have something, get them back in the building for school. And the mental health of these kids are something that I'm very passionate about. And to be quite honest with you, I got a lot of kickback from people in the community, and mostly, and I should have stayed off it, but it was the news channels where people were commenting underneath the posts of the protests that the kids did, and basically were saying, why would I fight so hard for hockey to play, but not for the kids to get back to school? And what I keep trying to reiterate to everyone that comes in the studio, I see a lot of people. We have a lot of kids in our district, and Mr. Brady has said it a bunch of times, Mr. Oliver has said it a bunch of times, our district can't until we have the guidelines changed to get the kids back into school. So it was never my intention to not fight for school to go back. It was just at that point, they couldn't. So let's give the kids that we could help out of the depression state that they were in. And having the 3 kids that I have in the district right now, I'm probably gonna get choked up talking about it. Just the difference in the kids going back in the building. The kids are coming home on time, they're focusing, they're eating healthier. It's a chain reaction of getting these kids back into a routine that's must needed right now for them.
First and foremost, I have, my wife works in the district now. She's a school psychologist, mostly at Jefferson, and she's the coach of the modified softball team. And I currently have one student in school and another one coming in next year. I find the quality of education in Messina very high, and I want to preserve that for them because they're so young. Having the public education system here that's very strong is important, that continues for them as well as future students that come after that. Getting kids back into school is always been my goal. My daughter right now is one remote day and 4 days at school, and the difference I see having the quarantine and stuff and having to help her with that has been night and day difference of watching her struggle with the online learning and focusing with all the distractions in her home compared to what she does in school. Her teachers even comment, like, she's so much more focused on having kids back and what they do there is important to me, and I want to be a part of that solution of getting them there and helping Messina achieve its goals of quality education.
Looking back to what I went through growing up here in Messina, I had a lot of great teachers growing up. There was a lot of great board members that I didn't really know at the time, but they provided the quality of education through the years, from me being there and my kids being there. That's gotten us to where we are today with, I think everybody spoke about it, that the quality of education in Messina is very high. And it's the reason you got to look back to the people on the board and the teachers that were involved in everything there. They put the time in, and I see this as an opportunity to be able to come back and do some of the things those people did for us. We wouldn't be here today talking about recovering from COVID or talking about the quality of education that we have if it wasn't for people that put their time in, that cared about Messina and cared about the students to be able to get there. I really, you know, my kids have gone. I've lived here, I went here. I really don't have anything specific to say, okay, I'm here because of this one thing. I want to make this happen. I want to make that happen. I think the general quality of what we offer our kids from top to bottom from our students is what really interests me. Whether you're an athlete, whether you're in music, a debate club, whether you're just a student that goes to school there or you're a skateboarder, everybody has an interest and they need direction. And I'll just leave it with this one thing. I called it islands of competence, and I think we need to step up. You know, the kids come to our island at school and we ask them to follow our rules, and in general they do that. I think it's important for us as community members to get out and see these kids on their islands, wherever they live, whatever they do, and bring that back to the table at the schools or with the Board of Education and know where the kids are coming from. They're much more comfortable coming into school if they know you care and you've gone to their island where it's their rules and it's their thing. So getting out and seeing people and having lived here and knowing the kids and being involved in a lot of different things, I think it's real important to help them when they come there, because they're going to trust you more and build relationships. I think no matter what you do, whether it's a Board of Education member, a teacher, or a parent, it's all about the relationships and what we can do to develop those. And this is an opportunity for me to help out with relationships within the district.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. What's happened this year is I've been able to see firsthand what is happening to students all over the district. And when students don't attend or they're not doing well, we're asked to reach out and communicate with parents. And some of those communications have been really eye-opening. And I've had parents cry on the phone. They have talked to me about that they've lost their job. They've talked to me about how their child is despondent and that they can't get them to do anything. There have been all sorts of things that have really made me aware, like Tim said, of the community that we live in. Yeah, and what Tim said about groups, like, I don't think that everybody really understands how much students look for a group to belong to. So I'm on the soccer team, or I'm a figure skater, or I'm a swimmer, or I'm in this club or that club. That's what gets them to school and keeps them there. And as Tim said, relationships. As I've gone through my career, I've realized that if you can make a relationship, a connection with a student, that student's more likely to show up and attend and be positive about what you're providing them, no matter what you teach. A lot of times you'll hear students say, so-and-so is my favorite teacher. It's not really the subject, it's the relationship that they have with that person. And so I've also realized that the relationships go beyond just the student. It's the relationship that you have with the parents. It's the relationship that the parents have with each other and the community, and getting people involved. You know, especially during COVID when we've had a lot of Zoom meetings, I've seen actually people start to attend because they can stay at home. They don't have to get out of their comfort zone and go someplace else, and they're more willing to be honest and communicate. So I think that although there are negative things that have happened in this past, over a year, since March of last year, that we can look at that and try to dissect it and figure out what are the positive things that we can do here. What have we learned from this about education and about kids and about parents and about our community? And so, although I'm looking forward to retiring, I mean, it's been a long time, and I really wanted to do something else. I kind of feel like I'm not done with education. I feel like I still have a connection there, and that hopefully, because I do have a lot of connections within this district, that'll help people be more open with me and have me be more accessible so that I can be a touchstone and be a voice for them.
Your answer is so right on. It honestly is, like, so many, the connections because as a parent of 4, I have 4 children. Some are doing great with this remote schooling, some not so much. And when the teachers reach out to me, they reach out to the students, it makes it a little bit easier to cope in this environment that we're living in right now, everything that's going on. So honestly, my main reason for wanting to run for the school board is for the children, not just my 4, not just my 4 future stepchildren, but for all of the children. Like I said, I went through Messina Central High School, and you couldn't find a better school, one that was more involved. I was in clubs and activities and sports, and it was so nice to say, yes, I belonged. So I think it is so important that as the school board, as the community, we get together and figure out how to make this happen again for our children. So that's why I'm here, is for the children in the Messina community.
I've read all your resumes, and you all have some very impressive credentials behind you. But what do you think is the biggest contribution you could bring to the board? I'm going to start with
Well, the biggest contribution I find that I can bring to the board is that I've been outside the district, and that I know how they operate as part of classes at San River. We sometimes would have to attend board meetings to know how that works, knowing how other districts operate, and how this one currently operates. It's actually nice with the Zoom meetings to be able to see live on YouTube board meetings, to be able to go to those without having to leave home with childcare and things like that. My experience is limited in that respect, but I think having the outside experience and lived in different areas, will help me bring outside perspective to the board.
I think the variety of things I've been involved with from the time I graduated from school and the diversity I can bring to that. I started out working at the IRC in Norwood as a recreation therapist. I graduated Saturday, started on Monday. That was a real eye-opener for me. It was something that I probably wasn't ready for. I went from there. I got an opportunity to work in special education with BoCEs for 2 years. So I have some background with the way the BoCEs program worked then. It's much different now, but the different type of kids and communities that came together in my classroom. From there, I went to St. Lawrence Central, a smaller district, and how things operate there are much different than they are at a bigger school. Some things are very positive on the way that they can offer, and some things you wish you were in a bigger district. So, you know, there's things you can bring from having that opportunity. And then having been in Messina, I've worked as I've been a coach, I've been a special ed teacher, I've worked in administration as the athletic director. So I have a background with several different types of people, and within special education, I've worked with from resource room to self-contained classrooms. And then if you want to get to where I am now, which isn't, I just think of it as being an old man, now I'm a retired taxpayer, so with nobody in the district and not working there. So I think when you look at that, the diversity of how I can look at anything is pretty broad, and I can draw upon a lot of different situations when things come up where I'm not one-dimensional, where I might think, my child's in special ed, so I'm only worried about that. I can think outside the box and think about different things from the different places I've been.
So I would say something similar, which is experience. My master's degree is actually in administration and supervision. And at one point, I had an administrator ask me if I would like to intern with him and then get my CAS certificate. And I thought about it a long time, and then I realized that I love the classroom way too much, and I would really miss the children. So I do have that breadth of experience, 35 years in the same district, and having taught all of the grade levels. I often quote people that I worked with when teachers my colleagues would say something that rang really true, it just sticks with you. And I did have an administrator once say to the group of us teachers at a faculty meeting, every single child that walks in that door is somebody's baby. And it really just hit me. It was like, yes, it's not just, oh, well, Johnny's difficult or Sally's a wonderful student. It's that they're somebody's child, and that person cares about them and wants the best for them, and we have to always keep that in mind. And so I do think that I have a good background, and I think that I can be an objective person. I think because I've worked with so many different administrators, so many different faculties, and so many different staff, I realize that we're not an island. What we are is a community, and we all have to work together. If there's something that's off in our community, it usually shows, there's a break. So I would like to do this, and I think my experience will benefit everyone in the district.
The experiences that I have in the workforce are, they range from working for NYSARC to working as a teacher to, I've been in so many different facets of education in so many different levels. And the experience that I have from doing that and the knowledge that I've gained, whether it's working with somebody who, children who are in the special ed program or children who are in a gifted classroom, anything like that, I have the ability, I've always found, to really connect with people and reach people at all levels. I have compassion and I have drive, and I have always really loved the Messina district. I moved away for a couple years, and I said, I'm moving home. I'm going back to Messina. That is where I want to raise my family. So the fact that I feel so connected to this district, so connected to the students and the faculty when they reach out, and the administration, that I think is one of the biggest assets that I have. Is I can just, my drive, I want so much to help and to make this better, and to just be a part of something bigger than myself, you know, bigger, like what Tim said, it's not just focused on one thing. You know, it's not about me, it's about the whole community, and I honestly feel that my knowledge, my experiences, that is what would make me, you know, just a really strong board member.
I think as I'm listening to everybody's responses, the one thing that I take out for myself is I feel like I would be a bridge. I have 4 kids. I've been a parent of a child in the district for 17 years, so I've seen lots of buildings. I had an honor student. I have a kid in special education. I have 2 in the junior high right now. So on the other side of it, I know a lot of community members because of my career. And so I feel like being a part of a board, part of your responsibility is talking to the community about what you can bring to the board to make changes. And so I feel like where I work and where I have my children and I know the community members, that's why I want to be a part of the board, because I feel like people would be able to come to me and I could bridge that situation into making changes.
Does anybody need to go for water? Because I do.
Okay, so, well, Bob, while you're doing that, let me just ask, does any member of the audience have any questions so far that they would like to ask any of the candidates? Or do they want to wait until the end? That's up to you. I just figured it'd be a nice break. Anybody had any questions? No? Okay.
Thank you. Our third question I had, how familiar are you with the school board and its operations? We'll start with Tim.
Being familiar with the school board is something I've only known from the other side. You know, I've had to do presentations there. I've known members of the school board. The one thing I do know is that I know what I don't know, and there's a lot to learn when you get there. And I know there's training opportunities and a lot of learning to take place. And being involved in where I was looking at them, I mean, policy is an important piece of it, and the budget piece, and which is, you know, it's very difficult. And my familiarity with the budget is, again, from the inside. Going in. My willingness to get involved with the board is my willingness to learn also, and to know that I don't know everything, and that it'd be a learning experience for me. And I think that's the best answer I can give, other than trying to make something up and say I know what goes on. I know what goes on from the outside as a community member and as a person that worked in the district. But there's a lot more to know that I need to learn, and so that's the best answer I can get. There's a lot I need to learn when I get there, if I get there.
So, similar to Tim, I've worked in the district for a long time. As a union member, I have attended a lot of different Board of Education meetings. As a teacher who has a program that is expensive, because if you can think about art, it's all material driven instead of book learning type of thing. So having a larger budget and seeing how budgets work. I've been a member of the BMT, which is a management team within the school district. So if you're a department chair, you would meet with building principal, and budget was part of that. It was a very big part of that. Who is going to get how much, and you have to justify what you want the money for. So I do have some experience with that. I also feel like policy has been a big thing. There have been certain board members who have written policy, and I've read it. I'm familiar with that. You know, but as Tim said, you can't know everything. I know some things from a teacher's perspective, but also working with administrators. I know it's a huge undertaking. You know, I have had several people say, why would you retire and then want to do this? Because it is. And, you know, I feel like today is a job interview because it's a job, even though it doesn't pay. It's a very important job. And you influence a lot of different people. You influence people who work in the district and people, you know, the children who go to the district. So it's a huge responsibility, and you know, I take that very seriously. I like to learn new things. I always am trying to challenge myself, especially in my career. I started taking on different roles at different points in my career. Currently, I'm painting the set for a musical that's going to be filmed instead of performed in person. That's really different. I've done art club, so I'm familiar with how clubs have to account for the money and different procedures like that. So I know that there's a lot to learn, and I do take it very seriously, but I'm really ready for a challenge.
Honestly, a year ago, I had no clue, none. And when I had thought about being on the school board, I said, okay, it's meetings, it's, you know, discussing how things are going in the district, and honestly, it's so much more than that. It's so much more. There's committees and meetings, and you know, we have our different sessions, and honestly, I'm familiar with some portions of it, yes, but I don't know it. I don't know so much of it, and the members of the board who have been there for so long, who do know, I'm in awe of them, because there's so much information, there's so many things to learn, and there's training that you go through, like Tim had said, there's trainings, and there's procedures and policies, and I'm kind of hoping, I'm excited to be able to learn more about it and be more involved, and possibly at some point be on a different committee. There's, you know, the different committees that they have. So my familiarity with the board operations, while it may be, you know, more than what some of you guys have experienced, I don't know it all, you know, and it's mind-blowing how much is involved in it. Honestly, there's so many things, and it's an honor to be able to be a part of it and get to learn it. So I'm hoping, honestly, that I will be able to become much more familiar with the policies and the operations of everything.
My experience with school board is none, obviously. I have been on a couple different boards over the years, between nursery school and hockey boards and, you know, things that my kids were involved in, but I'm going to mirror Christy's. I haven't had much experience with the school board, and I know this is a way bigger scale. So I'm excited if I get the position to learn it and be part of helping move our district forward.
Just like most of the candidates up here, very limited experience with what a board does. When my wife mentioned to me that there was going to be a school board opening or two, I researched as much as I could to figure out exactly what a school board does. And it's a laundry list of stuff, from budgets to policies and stuff like that. What I read, it takes several years, like Christy said, to learn all this stuff, the committees and all the stuff that you gotta do. It's probably one of the most thankless jobs in the community that doesn't pay anything, but it's very rewarding. That's what I've gained from what I've researched about it. But I'm excited to possibly learn it if voters choose that.
Well, luckily, we're in a time period where you can turn on YouTube and watch the school board meetings. You can find out what they're all about. Okay, you were the last one, yeah. Okay, we're gonna start with Tim, I guess. Are there any goals you would like to shoot for? Oh, I'm sorry, you are. Sorry. I told you I was gonna get screwed up. Are there any
It's all right.
goals you'd like to shoot for as a school board member?
A goal?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I hadn't really thought about what a specific goal would be, but in general, to get the district back to more of a normal functioning so that students can have more of a normalcy. My son is actually graduating, he's a senior, but he was very fortunate because he was part of the International Baccalaureate program. He was allowed to come back to school 4 days a week. Because the group is so small, they could socially distance and they could be accommodated in the classrooms when we changed from fully remote to hybrid. I have seen what has been going on as a teacher's perspective, but also with my students. Last March, I had 3 graduating seniors. They were doing independent studies with me. So we had a contract and what they were going to do, and when we had to shift to fully remote, there were relationships that I had with them that I was very happy that I had, because they didn't just talk about what they were going through academically, but they talked about holistically what they were going through. And I think that really, it stuck with me, that it's not just about school, it's the routine, it's the friendship, it's peer groups, it's relationships with teachers. All of those things are so important to students, and if I had to say what the one goal is, I want to try to help get them back to as normal a school as they can, so that we can not only further their education, but help them as people.
I have a few goals in mind that I would really love to see for the district. I think that it is so important for us to strive to keep up with the technology that's changing so that our future generations are going to be able to compete in a global market. You know, things are constantly changing and we need to be able to keep up with those changes. I think that if we recognize and address children with special needs, whether it's emotional or medical, economic, or even if it's children who are gifted, if we can recognize them, we can help to enable them to have equal opportunities for success as compared to other students as well. And the biggest one on my heart is that we need to work diligently as a school district, as a school board, as a community to prevent bullying. I have personal experience with that with one of my children, and I gotta tell you, as a parent, it's heartbreaking. It is devastating to know that your child does not feel safe when he goes to school. So if I had to pick one goal, that would be the major one, to work to prevent this horrible, horrible thing that happens to some of our students, and make it so that all children feel safe and welcome and accepted when they come to school.
My goal would be, I think for me, number one is getting the kids back to school. Just, that's the bottom line. It's more important for everything involved. I think Trish really nailed it, is that the kids need their normal back. And one of the things that we've talked about at the studio, you know, now that we have, the vaccine's been out for a long time, people are getting vaccinated, which is great. We've got to get these kids back to school. And I know parents are frustrated with the quarantining that's happening. As a parent, it's very frustrating. As somebody who's subbing in the district, I can also see it from the other side. But as far as like, what is step 2 at this point? Like, how are we going to change getting these kids back in the building? I know personally of kids that are in this district that just haven't gone to school. And that's an issue. They haven't gone in the building and they haven't checked in. And I'm worried about those kids who are friends with my children. What's gonna happen to them? They're just gonna go on, and I'm scared. I'm scared for some of these kids' futures right now. And that's my goal, is to get these kids back to school and get their normal back so that we can get these kids back on the right path.
There's, I guess, several things. One, with what my wife does in special education, making sure that department has the resources it needs to address some of the special needs of the kids in the district. From the time I was in school to now, that need has grown significantly. And then, in the other part of it is, I help Kristen and Congressman Martin with the Ready to School program. And I've secured funds for my work, for my union, to make sure that these kids have the tools they need from day one to make sure they're ready. The kids being ready from day one increases their chances of success significantly. And I want to help make sure every kid is ready. Not just mine, but all the kids throughout the whole district. And then lastly is making sure all the kids are coming back at some point. I know we have to follow guidelines from the public health and these kinds of things. And vaccinations are helping, of course, but getting them, like she said, that we need to make sure they're back, but I also want to make sure they're back safe.
I guess my goal would fit a lot of the things I've already said about community, parents, the teachers, the administration, is to try to make sure you encompass all that in your goal, which would include getting back to school, your programming within schools, and with the whole gamut of things, and not anything specific, but to continue to build the relationship and the communication between Board of Education, teachers, and community members, and make sure that all three of those are thought of with one purpose: to assure the best possible education we can provide for our students. Because if you keep it student-centered, things will go well. But in doing that, you've got to have good communication between the Board of Education, the teachers, and the parents or the rest of the community who, everybody's involved, whether you're a retired taxpayer or you're a parent. Education's important because these kids are the ones that are coming back to you. You hope come back to your communities. They're going to be the ones, whether they're the town supervisor or the mayor someday as you're retired, they're going to be the ones that you hope come back to the community. They're going to be leaders of your community in the long run. So I think it's real important about, again, the relationships and the communication within those groups to help make sure we assure the students the best possible education Messina can provide them. And I think it was said before, it's a global world. And the better we provide for them through those avenues, the better off we'll be. So my goal would be to make sure I can enhance that opportunity for communication between all the stakeholders.
Christy, I got this one right. How accessible would you be to people? How would they be able to contact you if they had questions or concerns?
It's funny that you actually asked me that question. Several times over the past year, I've had parents reach out to me with questions, with concerns about different things that have happened either in school or a question that's specifically for the board. And I was at work and somebody approached me because they had a question about the school buses and why was the elementary school bus still running, but the junior high and senior high school buses weren't still running. How come those students were still going to school? And so, I, at that time, I honestly didn't know, so I said to her, give me your phone number. I'll let you know, I will find out. People can reach me anytime they want. They can email, they can find me on Facebook, and I, as with anybody on the board, have a school email address. So if they had questions and they wanted to reach out to me, they are more than welcome to do it that way. So, but it's kind of ironic that's one of the questions, because it's happened so many times. I've had so many people just just random questions, how does this work, or why is this happening? So but like I said, anytime I'm available, anytime, even at work.
I would say that would definitely not be a problem for me. I'm constantly on my phone between both jobs. I'm constantly booking appointments for people, and with real estate, I'm dealing with emails all day long between all avenues of that. So anybody can email me at any time, and I'll try to get the answer as fast as I can. My cell phone is on all of my signs all over town that I have for sale. So, of course, anyone could ask me any questions, and I'd get it taken care of.
It's kind of hard to answer, but the answers have already been given. But I'm available all the time. I don't require a lot of sleep, so I'm up most of the night anyway. And I know people feel most comfortable at night reaching out to somebody and say, hey, what is going on? And I think with the school email address and the phone numbers and stuff like that, and I have several very good relationships in town with quite a few business leaders. People know how to get a hold of me. If they don't know how to get a hold of me, they usually find my wife and she lets me know. But accessible all the time.
Accessibility is not a problem. I mean, most people will find a way to find you when they have a question, and I'm available. I don't travel very much. I'm at home. I don't mind answering questions. I think a question's a good way to develop the communication and relationships we talked about, and how you answer questions. So if you're going to do the other, you better be accessible for that. So it's not a problem for me.
Sometimes you'll have conversations with people just randomly, people walk up and start talking to you, especially if they find out that you're a teacher. A lot of people have a lot of things to say. I enjoy talking to people. It is my preferred form of communication. So I am accessible in that way. And two, I'm going to be retired, so I won't have a job. You won't have to call me at work because I won't be there. And of course, emails. I'm kind of a dinosaur. I don't do social media, and I'm sorry about that, so you won't find me on Facebook or anywhere else. LinkedIn is probably as close to social media as I get. But I do like emails. I do like being able to instantly communicate with people. I think it's really important. And I think Christy brought up a really good point, which is if somebody asks me a question that I don't know, I'll research it. I'll find out. I can get you an answer. It might not be immediate, but I will do my due diligence. So I guess what makes me accessible is I like to talk to anybody. It really doesn't matter who they are. I think people would describe me as very approachable at work. I have great relationship with staff as well as faculty and administration. So I think that kind of open lines of communication too, I might be a person who understands who am I going to ask. Like instead of bothering Mr. Brady, who is very busy, if I know that I can call the high school building principal and I can talk to Alan about that question and that he could probably answer it, I think that might help because I have an idea of who I would want to ask and who would be the appropriate person.
I have one more question. The more I look at it, the more I realize I'm not going to ask it because it's so hokey. So at this point, if anybody in the audience has any questions that they would like to ask the board members that I haven't covered.
I have a question. Sue Bell, a retired teacher. Being a volunteer, there's always lots of board meetings and lots of subcommittee meetings. How have you all thought about this? Will there ever be a time where you won't be able to attend a meeting every other month or whatever? I mean, this happens a lot in volunteer boards. We see people once or twice around 12 months. So how do you feel about that?
Start over here again.
Yeah, I have thought about the meetings, and as long as I have a schedule, I schedule it into my day, and then I don't book around it. So I plan on being at every meeting that I'm available to go to, as long as, there's no emergencies. But as long as I know when the meetings are gonna be, there's not gonna be a problem for me to go.
That goes same for me as well. I attend our union's monthly meetings now, and in our union entry meetings, we meet with the company once a month, or committee meetings are once a month. I work those into my schedule, around my wife's schedule, around my kids' sports schedules. Those, we figure them out. But making meetings and being accessible for this,
I think that's one of the things you have to think about right from the start, about the commitment that you're making and what it entails. And I don't have a problem with attending meetings and being involved whenever it is. And again, to do the things, we've all talked about our goals. So in order to accomplish any goals, your commitment would be to be at the meetings, and that would be mine.
I think that's a really good question, Sue, because I think sometimes people don't realize how much of a commitment that they have to make. But that hasn't been a problem for me, and my son will be in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'll be home. I have a dog, maybe I might have to take care of her every once in a while. But yeah, it's something that you do have to make time for. It has to become a priority. It has to be, because that's the way that you're going to get things accomplished. What is really positive about what we found during the pandemic is that you can do things virtually. You don't always have to meet in person. There are some times where it's more appropriate to do it via electronically. So, I think that that's a good thing too. That's something that I think could be utilized more. I do enjoy being at the public and having the public be able to have it accessible, but at the same time, they've typed questions into the chat and they have a monitor on the chat and they can ask sometimes more questions. Sometimes people feel a little hesitant about speaking in front of a group. So I think using what we've learned and using technology does help to make that commitment a little more sustainable.
When I first started with the school board, that was a very big concern that I had. I have a gaggle of children, so the time commitment to the meetings was a concern for me. And honestly, it hasn't been a problem. Angie, they tell you, months in advance when the next meeting is. So, they're scheduled, they send out, I don't even know what they're called, I can't think, polls of some sort saying when is a good time to have these meetings, and we vote on it and the time that works best for everybody. So the time constraints have not in the past year been an issue at all. And even when I wasn't able to make the meeting because of quarantine, I was able to join on Zoom. So it was nice. It's nice that we do have that technology.
Not really a question, but since you've served on the board for a year already, can you kind of tell us how much of a commitment it is? Because it's not just the once-a-month meetings. There's the committee meetings, there's the training you have to go through. How extensive was that for your first year?
Well, it wasn't as bad as I in my head had made it out to be. I was kind of a little panicked about it. But honestly, the trainings, once again, there's a couple that you do virtually. They said when we first started, we set up times once again that worked for the new member, the other new member, and myself. So that worked out beautifully, and just it is a time commitment. It really is. The meetings, I don't think we've had one less than 2 hours long. There's a committee that I serve on that our last 3 meetings were 4 hours long. But if it's something that you're really, truly passionate about and that you really are invested in and care about, you're going to find out how to make the time. You're going to figure it out. I have an amazing support system who, if I need someone to watch the kids, it works out for me. So, but honestly, it's not as scary as it seems, guys. Not that bad.
Are there any other questions from the audience?
I have a question. I'm Robert, I'm on the board at this time. We all want the kids to come back to school as soon as possible. It's terrible what's going on with COVID and all that, and we all said the same thing. second wave hit the rest of the U.S. very bad. The third wave didn't hit the U.S. that bad. It hit the other countries like Brazil, China, India, and Canada. Does anybody of you know how our situation is in the Messina, St. Louis County compared to last week, last month, or compared to the other cities in the county?
Whoever wants to take a crack at it.
We want the kids to be back. Are we, is the school ready, is the community ready to bring back the kids? That's essentially what I want to know.
Right. Messina is one of those localities that has had a high positivity rate. It just is. We're a bigger community, you know. Ogdensburg is probably about par with us as far as that. Mobility, I think, has a lot to do with it. If people are traveling, if they're going different places, there's the possibility that they could bring it into the community. I don't know how you would curtail that. I think the best thing that we could do is to educate people about, you know, all the different protocols that you can do, including washing your hands frequently and not touching your face, etc. And providing vaccinations. I have siblings who live in other parts of the country and one that lives in another part of the state. She actually considered, she's on Long Island, she considered driving up to SUNY Potsdam to get her vaccination because she said where she was, there was just nothing available. So, you know, the North Country is really weird like that. Because we're so isolated, somehow that kind of protected us, as you were saying, during the different waves. But also, like, we're really resourceful. The fact that we had the National Guard come in, that's where I was vaccinated. It was run so smoothly, like clockwork. And it was just like, you entered, and I mean, each time I got the vaccination, I got the Pfizer, I was probably in the facility for like 10, 15 minutes. It was just the protocol of waiting to see if you had an adverse reaction that took the longest. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy. You know, I think you're in the medical field, right?
Yeah.
I think you probably see that too. But then there are other things that play a factor. You know, like my mother is a resident at Maplewood Assisted Living. All of the assisted living people, the residents, they're 100% vaccinated. But they still have outbreaks because there are some staff members who are reluctant to get vaccinated. And so my sisters and I inquired, like, what is that all about? And there's a lot that has to do with education. So again, it comes kind of full circle. You know, if you can provide people with good information, I think people make good decisions. But again, they're personal decisions. I can't say, as a woman who has an 18-year-old boy, that if I were maybe getting ready for my childbearing years, that I might not be a little hesitant to get vaccinated. So I think you have to have an open mind, and we have to do the best that we can. I know that the school takes every precaution. You know, in between, we extended time in between classes so that teachers can use disinfectant and clean the surfaces so that the next cohort that's coming in, you know, we're trying to keep them as safe as we can. So I think it has to do with education and good information.
Anybody else want to take a crack at that?
I'd like to say a little bit. One of the things that I deal with every day at the hair salon is infectious control. I don't want people to get, you know, a fungus in my nail salon. I don't want people to have lice if they didn't sit in a chair. So we are licensed in that department as far as keeping everybody safe. Obviously, we've never had to be taught about COVID, so this was a huge eye-opener when we were told we could open. And poor Mr. Dubray, he has had to deal with so many emails from me because I understand. You should have seen my guidelines that I could open up. And it was shields, and I had to wear this huge gas mask looking thing over my mask, and the poor 2-year-olds coming in for a haircut after quarantine were terrified when they're looking at us trying to do their hair. So I get that. One of the things that I have been really fortunate with is I have a lot of clients who work in the hospital on the COVID floor. So those poor people have to get questioned every single time they come in, because I want to learn, I want to understand it, because I don't understand COVID in the beginning. There were so many unknowns. They were telling you were going to get it on the, we couldn't even take money in the beginning because we were afraid that it was going to be on the money, to where it's morphed into the science of what we're knowing, and that, you know, it's by mouth, it's by keep your eyes covered, that's how it spreads. But also, to answer part of your question, one of the things that the ICU nurses constantly tell us in there is that this is a virus. It's not going to ever go away. We have to get vaccinated, we have to move, but it's always going to be here. And it's just going to see how it plays out as far as like what it's going to do to impact our everyday after this. But I tell people all the time, if you ever want to get questions answered, sit with an ICU nurse. They can tell you. And after the whole vaccine started, and then just, you know, December and January, they started to get the vaccinations, I would check in like every week. Like, how many do you have in the ICU this week? Next week, okay, we're down to, and one point, it was scary. They had 2 floors filled, and it was no joke. And now, you know, I checked in like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, how are we doing now? And she's like, great, we have 2. So like, it's working, and it's showing you that it's working. But at the same time, you know, it's always going to be there. It's a virus. So.
Anybody else?
Well, I know from all the precautions at my job that we take, temperature scans at the door, constantly sanitizing. We actually just had a vaccination clinic right on job site for anybody who hadn't already gotten one. Having those things has been helpful in reducing it. We've only had less than a dozen positive cases at my job. We never shut down during the entire pandemic. We actually had a record year during it, which is crazy. And part of it was educating people on what you need to do to stop the spread. And one of the things we noticed was commented in one of our meetings was that we had a significant reduction in people being off for the flu, for the common cold, for all these things. It's helped with that. And knowing COVID, you know, it's as bad as it is, we learned a lot. And it takes kids wearing masks to school, so be it. I do it every day, been doing it for over a year. I've seen the benefits of it. And my daughter, no one's ever going to do great 100%. And understanding where that person's coming from is where you start. And then coming to a consensus at some point in your conversation without getting hostile with them or those kinds of things is important. And knowing how to meet that person halfway, I think is incredibly important. And then conveying your side of things and having them understand where you're at. I think is important.
I think it's important whenever you have a discussion like that you don't become argumentative. There's going to be differencing of opinions on every board that you're on or any group that you're with, and it's up to you to recognize that as yourself. And a lot of times we think that person's got a problem. When you can't deal with their opinion, it's really your problem that you need to deal with and figure out a way to deal with that. So it's important for you to do that in a public meeting. Be able to, if you have something to say about their opinion, be constructive about it, base it on facts, and don't be argumentative. And at some point, you just have to stop and let the conversation go on, and just know that you're not going to agree and they're not going to agree, and you've said what you've had to say about it, and you need to move on and not let it take care of itself. You can't let it carry over beyond that and let it become an argument or a situation where people see it as you two people don't like each other. You can't let it grow to that. You got to leave it at he had an opinion or she had an opinion, you have an opinion on something, and then that's okay. That's where it ends, and you can't allow the argument or the differencing of opinions to grow to an argument within a public setting.
Yeah, Paul, that's a really good question. And I guess the best answer that I could give is you always have to respect the other person. Because if you lose respect, as people have said, you know, if you become, well, he doesn't like her or she doesn't like him, that's when you lose people's interest. They won't respect you because you're not respecting somebody else. I guess what I would say is, I would try most tactfully to express why I disagree, and then I would leave it there. I would wait until after a public meeting, and then I would try to reach out to that person and say, you know, let's have a discussion about this, but let's have it in private, and see if we can't find out where the disagreement lies. So I would equate it to like with a child. You can't engage them in the conflict cycle. I didn't have a cell phone. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. You know, that's just, you're not going anywhere with that. So what you have to do is you have to say specifically what it was that you disagree with, and then you have to let it go. Tensions can get really heated. I've seen it at board meetings, you know, and I understand what you're saying. People in the community see that as they don't like each other, and that's not what it's about. It's about that I don't feel the same way that this person feels, but I have to acknowledge they have a right to feel that way, and just like I have a right to have my opinion.
I've seen it happen. I've seen, you know, two people expressing their opinions, it gets heated. I've seen it. But the great thing about the board and what the public does not get to see is at the end of the meeting, we all walk out of that room laughing and talking together. You know, it doesn't get held against anybody. And if it's something that's, you know, really a hot button topic, then yeah, I'm sure they're going to discuss it outside of the meeting. But we respect each other enough to realize that we're all human, and we're not all going to have the same opinion. So really, nobody is a robot. They're not going to be able to just shut it off. But it's not, he doesn't like her and she doesn't, we all walk out of that room as a team, essentially. And so it's that you express your opinion, you express your opinion, and then if it needs to continue later, like you said, outside of the public forum, it does. But in that, when we leave that room, there aren't hard feelings. There are none. We're a team. It's a unit. That the school board is a team.
Anybody else?
If there are no other questions.
I have a couple of questions. Sorry. Without really thinking about it, go right down the line, starting with this young lady at the end. One word, your greatest accomplishment.
My greatest. Okay.
Your greatest accomplishment.
Humbling.
Oh. That is so tough.
It's hard.
It really is.
Tim?
Parenting.
Very good.
Education.
Angela?
Yeah, I'm a Trish on this one. My kids, I know it's 2 words, but I'm gonna go with my kids.
Did you have one?
They're like all of them.
Okay.
You know, I honestly believe I am very, truly blessed. I said this in my letter to the superintendent when I retired. I've learned more from students than probably they've learned from me. They've taught me more than anything else. And I am really, really happy about that. So leaving the career like I'm leaving, very happy.
Okay. I'm asking this because of a recent article that came out. This is concerning the COVID shots. Okay. Do you feel that it should be imposed upon the members of the teachers, the faculty, and the students for mandatory COVID shots? Angela?
This is a risky one to answer.
Well, it just came out. I
I know,
mean,
I know.
it's coming down the line, and I foresee it possibly coming in
Well,
the near
so
future, as far as the colleges
Well, in
go.
our personal experience, my oldest goes to Clarkson, and they just sent out an email today that said, the only way we're ever gonna get our campus back to normal is if our entire staff and our entire student body is vaccinated. So without even answering that question, I think we're already going down that road.
Yes.
My personal beliefs, I'm very pro-vaxxer. All of my kids have vaccines, all of them, I totally get the other side. So I hate to say that you have to,
Yeah.
but I don't see it going any other direction, especially when the college campuses are going that way. And people are really, really upset about it. Like, there's a lot of parents messaging me about it, and I totally get it. But
Yeah.
the colleges have lost way too much money, and they were shut down for a year and a half. And the kids need, the only way they can secure the kids' safety and their staff safety is to do this.
Chris?
I'm on the fence about it. Myself, my wife, my mother-in-law, my household, all vaccinated. When it comes to kids, I'm not sure. I just don't know where I stand yet. As for adults, I mean, people in the healthcare field are already required to have the flu shots, otherwise they have to wear masks. I'm kind of in that same boat on that when it comes to COVID.
Okay.
I don't think, I mean, that's a tough one, like everyone said. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it. I think it's very important that we follow the advice of the medical experts. Like, there's a lot of people that know a lot more than I do. I'm not an expert on it. I try to follow the people that know. And then you've got the problem where some people will say, well, this person knows or this person knows. I think we follow the experts that are out there for us, and we make the best decision possible based on the information that they give us. And if it's information that people need to be vaccinated, then those people know more than I do. By myself, that's who we follow.
Okay, so I'm vaccinated, my husband's vaccinated, my son is vaccinated. My son made that decision himself. We did not make it for him, but he was 18 years old. I feel like he's capable of doing that. I do not believe in imposing upon people's freedom. I do not think, as a Board of Education member, I mean, yeah, you're electing me, but not to make a policy like that. That's your health. That's your well-being. That's what parents are supposed to be doing. It is not for me to make a policy like that. Do I think education is important about the vaccine? Absolutely. But do I think that we really have experts who understand vaccinating children? No, I don't. I also very much watched Sweden. I was very interested in what they did. They did not close their schools. For the elementary students, they let the kids continue to go. They protected their most vulnerable, people who are older and with comorbidity, but they kept the children there, and actually their rate climbed more quickly than the US, but it leveled out at such, I mean, the graph was like, their graph was like this, ours was like this. It just, I don't think that anybody knows enough about it. This is a laboratory virus. You know, like Angie said, Spanish flu, it's a flu, it's still here, we call it the flu. This is still going to be here. Hopefully enough people are vaccinated and children who do get sick don't die from it. They build their own immunity. I think we don't really know where we are as far as immunity, because there are a lot of people who've had COVID and they were completely asymptomatic. Until we can find out how to test for the antibody, I don't think we really have good statistics yet. So as a board member, I do not think that it is my job to mandate. However,
I could not agree with you more. It's not my place to say everybody has to get COVID shots to be able to return to school. There are people with religious beliefs or personal opinions. There are people with medical conditions. It's not in their best interest to be vaccinated. And like you said, we don't know enough about it in children. So no, I don't believe that mandatory COVID shots is the way to go. Those who want to be vaccinated and who can be vaccinated, great, go for it. You're doing such a service to our community by doing that. But for the other children, the other adults who can't or don't want to, it wouldn't be right to impose that on them.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Now, anybody else? Okay. Time for closing statements. This is your last chance to do yourself a plug on why you should be elected next week.
I just hope I can get these people's votes. I just want people to understand that I'm there for the students. I really have a passion for getting kids on the right path, not just my own. My kids are all kind of moving on, and so this is my way of giving back to the community and knowing a lot of people. It helps with connections, and I can tell you I will work very hard. I'm definitely a hard worker, and if I don't know the answer, I'm going to research it until I figure it out. But that's I will work very hard for it.
Having a vested interest in the community, because my kids are so young, and what the future holds for them, that is their school district. Especially the fiscal health of the district itself is important to me. To make sure there are jobs for the teachers, there are good quality educators coming to the center, and having a great support system for the teachers as a board member is important, and working to make sure they have the tools they need to succeed is one of the reasons I want to be on the board.
Well, first, I think as a taxpayer, it's important for everybody to vote, and I think with 5 people sitting up here and listening to everybody's questions today, they have a great opportunity to pick anybody and have quality people on the Board of Education. It's not many times you find people that are willing to get involved, and I think any one of us would do a great job being part of the Board of Education. As far as myself, I think my background and different perspectives that I can offer from being different school districts, working for both cities, having been involved as the athletic director, being involved in special education as a parent, and now as a retired taxpayer. I think the volume of different hats I can put on at one time can offer a different perspective than a lot of other people.
I think Tim is right that our community is really fortunate that there are 5 people up here that want this job. I think that's great. And it speaks a lot about the community, how much people really care about Messina. Having been in the district for 35 years, I think gives me a real leg up. I think I was your art
You were
teacher,
my art
and I
teacher.
guess I was Angie's art teacher. And some of you in the audience. So I have worked with Tim, and so it's really great that Messina has this resource. I feel like I'm part of a really positive team. That's how I feel right now as an educator. I feel like this is a great team. The children that go here are the best asset for our future. And we have to make sure that they get the best possible education that they can as individuals and as part of the community. My goal is to continue to be a positive contributor, and I really want to work with people who are on the board, and as Christy said, be part of a team that's working toward the common good of this community.
So over the past year, I've developed an understanding of the school board, of the needs of the community as a whole, of Messina Central School, the children. And I've been able to just expand my knowledge and learn so much, and that I'm able to respond quickly and effectively to parents who have questions, to students who reach out to me with a concern. And, you know, honestly, I think that there's so much more that I would love to learn, that I would love to be a part of. It's been an absolute honor over the past year to work with the board members that I've gotten to work with. So, I mean, honestly, I want to thank the community for giving me that opportunity a year ago, because it has been one of the most rewarding experiences that I have ever had. Getting to know the board members and the way that the school works and operates, and just being part of something so meaningful and bigger than I ever thought I'd be able to be involved in. It's really an honor.
I think we need to thank these folks for coming tonight. Don't forget to vote next Tuesday, noon to 8 p.m. right here at Community Center. So.
Great. On behalf of Messina Music Friends, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out this evening to come share your thoughts, your hopes, and what you hope to accomplish by being on the school board. I personally, and I'm sure the public will also. I also want to take one other minute, and I just want to recognize Mr. Brady. That man has got to be a saint to go through all of this stuff. I admire everything you've accomplished so far. The public has. I've talked to people that have complimented you on how well you've managed everything, and I want to say thank you. It hasn't been a great task, but thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If nobody has any other questions, thank you everyone for coming this evening, and have a safe trip home.
Have a
Don't
good night,
forget to
everybody.
vote.
Harold, thank you so much.